But most importantly, we're here to advocate those who are willing to pick up the tools and fight inequality, fight poverty, and fight the oppression of those who still live under that waist belt. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I do apologize that we are late, but without further ado, I'd like to call up the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Mr. Salahi Tong.
Thank you very much, Nomzamo. I think they chose you because of your height, so that I don't have to adjust the mic too much. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. This is a good morning because we're celebrating a great legacy, a legacy of someone that we really hold dear, someone that we believe, whose legacy we believe will outlive all of us and continue to live for those who are still coming. Madiba tends to be celebrated for many things by many people. He's celebrated for the kind of values that he held dear. His name and legacy has been used across the world as a symbol of aspirational work that we need to do. The values, as I said, from creating standards for protecting prisoners, for example. The United Nations agreed on new standards for protecting prisoners, because Madiba said you can judge a nation by how it treats its lowest denominators, and those being prisoners, that if we treat prisoners well, you can know that that's a good society. And I think the UN recognized that, to educational trusts that have been opened, leadership awards, and many other things to celebrate his legacy. As the foundation, we continue to live up to the 3 mandates that he set for us: peace, democracy, and human rights, that we must create a just society that can benefit those who are still to be born. For the centenary, we're challenging you that all of us must live up to the 3 key messages that we've put out, that we must be the legacy, that we must try find Madiba in ourselves, and that we must try build a values-based society. It's because of lack of values that our values have been so sacrificed and damaged that you can find men, big men, hitting a woman in a stadium after the violence that erupted after Kaizer Chiefs. That image will haunt us for many years to come. As a Kaizer Chiefs supporter, I continue to say that that's something that should never have happened, and our society must abhor that. And if we can help find those criminals, we must help the criminal justice system to then ensure that they are tried for what they did. With this year's Mandela Day, we've decided to go deeper in terms of the work that we want to do, and do some more sustained work, that all the work that we do must have a sustainable impact. We've listened to the views that have been said out there in terms of criticism of Mandela Day, that it's too cooperative, for example, that we should then try and bring citizens more active to participate actively to help build Mandela Day to be what we want it to be. But we've also heard from people who don't do anything, who are just criticizing on the sidelines. And we're saying to those also, you need to join in the movement to help change the life of one person if you can. And I think it's this just criticizing without helping that doesn't help build our nation. So we are urging us to all find something that we can do. So Memory Institution, we also want to mark the legacy of Mama Albertina Sisulu. You'll remember that she also have been turning 100 years this year. That's why for the foundation, both in August and October, we'll dedicate those 2 months specifically, but we'll participate in the other programs. For us, we will then dedicate those 2 months specifically to just observing her legacy. The family, we've been working with the family, with the Sisulu family, ensuring that we grow this legacy and ensuring that all of us can observe her centenary too. Madiba said the following thing, talking about her. In 1996, I want to quote Madiba saying, Mama Sisulu personifies the demanding years known as the Roaring 50s, including the march to the union buildings, whose 40th anniversary will celebrate later this year, because he was speaking in '96. She had a share of hazardous times in the underground and the repression of the early '60s. She was always available to the Young Lions during the 1976 uprisings. When the UDF was formed in 1984, she was an automatic choice as a core president. For all this, she was dragged before the racist court over and over again. Today, she is laying a firm basis for our young democracy and for reconstruction and development as an MP. We salute you, Madiba says. You belong to the category of people we cannot do without. And I think in line with Madiba said, we all have to then observe this legacy and ensure that every day we try and bring the struggles of women forward. This year, as you know, very recently, 2 weeks ago, we launched one of the struggle giants of our struggle, being Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela. We'll always remember her. We'll always love her, and we'll always ensure that her legacy is not just being used to try and undo other legacies, but rather to try and complement many other legacies. Similarly, we owe it to her legacy to never forget her sacrifices and to mirror her tireless dedication of service to the promotion of equality for all. I want to remind us of what Bishop Mpumlwana said, in fact, in this very place, being the Constitution Hill, that Madiba is what he called the ambassador of hope on the other side, the ancestor of hope on the other side. And he called Mamwini the ancestor of civil activation, of civil action, that all of us must try and be proper active citizens who can then try and observe this legacy. For Mandela Day, we want to, like we did previously, call on you all to ensure that we take action against poverty. We seek to create this in honor of Madiba's centenary. For as long as we're still talking about 25% of our children going to bed hungry, that we talk about 25% of children of 0 to 6 years old not being in any ECD institution, and that we're talking about 26% of young South Africans, 1 in 4 South Africans struggling with, rather suffering from stunted growth, we cannot rest as a nation. That's why poverty is at the core, fighting poverty is at the core of the work that we want to do for Mandela Day. Some of the actions that we have, as you'd remember, and I go back to Mamwini, that on the 9th of this month, we would have launched what would have been 100 to 100 days of Madiba's birth. We then decided to turn that into Mamwini's birth memorial, rather. So it was after we turned this into the memorial that more people then came forward and asked us that we should share a common understanding of what the campaign goal is, being taking action against poverty. That we share the messaging of Mandela Centenary, as I have said, being the legacy, that we all try and find a Madiba in ourselves, and that we also try and build a values-based society. That we'll continue to share the branding opportunities that are there for us to grow the legacy, but that we will work towards the global celebration on the 18th of July in honor of Madiba's year of service. As the foundation, we'll urge you to be part of this exciting global project. You should remember Madiba's words when he said, "Our struggle for freedom and justice was a collective effort. Mandela Day is no different." In other words, for us to defeat the kind of social problems that we have, we all have to put a hand and contribute. To mark the centenary of Madiba's year, the foundation will be deepening its work in poverty and inequality, as I said, but also we will also anchor our work on anti-black racism. You'll remember that racism remains one of the big issues that we're dealing with as a country. The Atlantic Fellows for Racial Equity program, which was launched last year to help facilitate research into work required to lift racism off societal structures, will continue this year. In fact, tomorrow we'll be hosting the cohort of American scholars who will be here, with whom we will be building this program. We hope this work will help South Africa and the world deal with structural and institutional racism. In 2018, the Foundation will note the following events for the campaign. You'll be able, if you come to the Foundation, you'll be able to visit our exhibition, which is titled Unthreading Madiba. And this unthreading is meant to suggest two kinds of unthreading, that we keep undoing the legacy of Madiba, but that we must also continue to interrogate the legacy of Madiba. That we don't give you just a straitjacket to say this is Madiba as we should accept him. And all of us must continue to contribute to understanding and to keeping this legacy alive that way. We also recently hosted the first Nelson Mandela Debate Challenge in partnership with Simon, which saw a team from Limpopo win this competition. No, KZN. I see the people from KZN saying no. So sorry, it was KZN that won the campaign. But what we are trying to do with these young people is that we're encouraging each one of them to look at Madiba's legacy today. How is it helping me to understand my society today? Was Madiba a sellout? Did he give too much in terms of understanding the legacy? And all these things they brought forward, and we encourage young people to continue to have these dialogues. Of course, with the utmost respect to the legacy that we also hold dear, because that's the sign, a symbol of our own humanity. We will continue to host the various dialogues and our dialogue program. Our aim is to ensure that we bring about meaningful change in terms of fighting inequality. There's several books that will be coming out this year. The first one being I Remember Nelson Mandela, which will be coming out next month. And it's aimed at ensuring that the humanness of Madiba, his humility, come from people who saw him, worked with him, and understood his legacy. So look out for the book as it comes out. But there's a few other books that we'll be releasing, including one with Madiba's letters from prison. We have also catered for musicians who will then be celebrating the legacy. We are aware that Madiba's family will also be hosting a few concerts. Government will announce in due course a concert that they will host in South Africa. I think it will be in November this year. So that will be something that will then continue to then observe. But as the foundation, we've also catered for what is called the Baseline Africa Music Festival. That is an annual event that takes place here at Baseline, and we will give you more details as they become available. Another project that will be, I'm just mentioning a few. I can see that those who have projects are now looking at me saying, I hope mine is coming soon. Ntatem Swami, don't worry. Even though it might not be mentioned here, we are aware of it. So the Shave to Remember is another one project that we'll be doing, which will be about bringing back that line. Remember the line that Madiba had way back in the 50s, 60s. You remember that line? I saw women have now reintroduced it. Some of it goes that way. It's not straight. But we're not saying it should be straight, by the way. You're going to walk out of here and say, that's not the real thing. It remains a line. But for us, Shave to Remember is about reminding ourselves of our responsibility to ensuring that that line is a path to a much more equal society, is a path towards a much more society that cares about the vulnerable, and a society that understands that we have a long road to go, a long walk ahead. This is a project that we'll be doing both here and internationally. It will be rolled out soon. I think on the 22nd of this month it will be rolled out. Then there's a concept that we've come up with, which we hope you will like, which is about Mandela Fridays. which we hope that all of you will like what we try to present here. You'll see this T-shirt that I'm wearing. You can't see all the features because you're looking at me. If you focus here, so apparently I'm too short. The people are trying to work out. So if you look at this, you see the values that Madiba have here. So here, what you have is what Madiba would be Madiba's values, as it were. And we're trying to present this as a kind of T-shirt that you can then use. On the one sleeve, you'd have the partner logo, and on the other, you'd have, in fact, they're saying I should strip. Oh, apparently I don't have the body for it. So here's a muscular person. He's even volunteering to come on stage to show his muscles. So you'll see those are the values, and here you'll have the logo and the full logo on the other side. On here you can then have the hashtag is also there somewhere, observing Madiba's centenary. So with these Mandela Fridays, we're trying to remind ourselves that taking action against poverty can't be a one-day event, that we must do it every day, and that we must try and use this to show it as a commitment to the struggles that are still coming. That all of us will then be working hard to ensure that we get the T-shirt, not just to wear it, but to take action in its honor. And that's why we're then encouraging you to then get the genuine thing, by the way, which is important. You know that the ambassadors here might call it wrong country. And then, so without calling country, fakes might be out there. So let's just make sure that we get the real thing. The website will be making that information available soon. Some of our partner, the events that we're partnering in include an international exhibition that will start in Melbourne, move on to New Zealand. From New Zealand, it will then continue around the world, the US, until it gets back to South Africa in 5 years. So look out for that one. And there's a production by Ntate Mbongeni Ngema. Most of you might have seen it, called the Nelson Mandela Through the Eyes of an Artist. Prison Letters of Nelson Mandela will come out, as I said. And my colleague who's working right at the back there, Sam Fenter, is the one who is dealing with that project and will be making that available. In fact, what goes with that is a production that we're doing with Market Theatre that will start in due course. With the South African Reserve Bank, we have a 2018 commemorative note, which will come out on July 18th, and we will give you more information with the Reserve Bank as it becomes available. One of our big partners on the libraries initiative has been ABSA, and I want to single them out mainly because Maria, in fact, decided to be here today. So I was not going to mention them, but I was intimidated because she's here. But again, it's a challenge that I would like to challenge Maria rather than me challenging other CEOs, that you should challenge other CEOs to join in the struggle, to ensure that we can then, Bobby, that we can then make sure that Ntate Malabi is sitting next to her, and we're hoping that you can then also call out to others, corporates out there, to say we need to make this year much bigger than we have thus far. So we're aiming to build 100 libraries countrywide. No pressure on ABSA, but they have already committed to, I think, 90 of the 100. Is that correct? Yeah, they nodded. So it means we're pretty close to the end of the target if you can come on board. Of course, there's another initiative that we're doing, and today being the day that Michael Komape's family will be in court for the judgment dealing with pit latrines. We would like to challenge all of us here that we must help eradicate pit latrines in honor of Madiba. To hear the Minister of Basic Education saying it will take until up to 2024 to eradicate these toilets, how many more Lumkas would have died? How many more Michael Komapes would have died. So we are challenging all of us that if you can eradicate one toilet out of our system, we will be all the better for that. Of course, we also have a lot of activities on boxing. We're going to have an event that will, rather a tournament on boxing, both here in Gauteng, but also as a global event and in the Eastern Cape. That's something that we'll then do. There would be, as I said, legacy concerts, including one in Porto, but the ones that will be held by the Mandela family also, which will be in the different centers, such as in Germany, in London, and many other centers. Bikers for Mandela Day, I saw bikes here earlier on, but I don't see them anymore. The bikers are here, and they will again be doing what they have been doing since 2010, where they ride to change lives. This year they'll do the same thing again, but you'll hear more information at a later stage. 67 blankets for Mandela Day is another one that will be coming up. Where Carolyn Stein, I don't know if she's here, tomorrow they will be unveiling what will be the masterpiece blanket for Mandela Day that will be coming through. So as we remember Madiba, we then are going to also do a few runs, including the Nelson Mandela Walk and Run, in remembering Madiba with the government of Gauteng and the local government of Tshwane. But we will also have a few others like the one in Mngungundlovu that we'll be doing. We'll be working in collaboration with the Mandela Foundation to showcase our soccer specifically, but sport in general. Now, I know that you're not here for these things. You're just thinking to yourselves, get to the point, man. We want to know who's going to be the speaker. That's what you want, right? So you're sitting like this, watching the program, thinking, just get to the point. We want to know who's the speaker for this year. Before I get there, I need to tell you that this year, the theme is renewing the Mandela legacy and promoting active citizenship in a changing world. The reason we chose to go this route, where we use this as a theme, is again to go back to active citizenship. This was crafted after Mamwini passed in order to then try and build active citizenship within our society. And we are hoping that we will do so. I've just been told that I can't tell you yet who it is because I need to tell you why we chose this person. You'll know that last year we've had 14 lectures before, and all 14 lecturers have been invited, and indications are most of them will be attending. And we are hoping that the 15 lecturers, and all 15 we hope will attend. Of these 15, each one of them has touched on a theme that changed or was responding to something that was happening around the world. So this year we thought, who can best represent the legacy of Madiba than the person who we believe took on the baton when he became president of his own country and led in the struggle of ensuring that we build. I can see you guessing, and you're wrong. It's not him. No, you said her. It's not her. It's not her. It's someone else. But it's this person that we then thought, who can this person be that can then respond to this challenge? In a world that has gone crazy with Twitter, where the finger can determine national policy of a country, who can that be? Who can then respond to the challenge? Again, we kept on asking ourselves, who would be able to deal with issues of democracy in a world that's ravaged by corruption, and it's the very thing that he was trying to fight against. And in fact, African-born, because we thought rather with an African heritage. So we thought people were calling for an African to come and address us. And we thought it has to be an African, correct? An African, correct? Maria, you're still not sure who it is. So we thought this person should then be the person who can then address this issue of democracy. He won the Nobel Peace Prize, thereby joining about seven previous speakers who got the Nobel Peace Prize. And this year, in 2018, there's no drums, that's the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me to say to President Barack Obama, we will be looking forward to hosting him as he will be addressing the 16th Nelson Mandela Annual Lecture. This lecture will focus on creating conditions for bridging divides, working across global ideologies and lines that needs to be crossed, and resisting oppression and every sense of inequality. The lecture will take place on the 17th of July, 2018. And I know it's a day before Madiba's birthday, and it will be held at Ellis Park Arena in Johannesburg. I can feel my phone is already ringing. People are now asking for tickets. Tickets will be made available. Please, you are all welcome, as we'll be welcoming you to welcome President Obama. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause. Can we act excited a little bit more? This is good news. This is good news. The African son is coming home, and he is here to commemorate 100 years, which is a long time. How many of us are going to live to 100? I don't see any ladies. This is very concerning. I think I'm going to live to 150. I'm not ready to, head on over to the other side. But yes, it's exciting. On the 17th of July, 2018, we will be seeing every single one of you. Please spread the word. Please make sure that the world is listening, that we are about to really change the narrative and drive this legacy by being the legacy. And that's something that's, I think, is so important, that it's not just about Mandela Day. It's not just about, picking up a paintbrush and that's it, and just going home and forgetting about it.
And well, there you have it. The secret is out. It is the former president of the USA, Barack Obama, who will be delivering the 16th annual Nelson Mandela lecture that is set to take place on the 17th of July, as indicated that will be happening at the Ellis Park Hall. We will be there as the SABC, so we'll be bringing you that lecture and all the events leading up to that lecture that will be happening on the 17th of July. And quite interesting listening to Silo Tong speaking about in a world where policies are determined by Twitter, or determined through Twitter. And on the other side of that, while this could have been some shade being thrown at the current president of the USA, Donald Trump, you look at the former president of the US, Barack Obama's tweet, which has broken the records, which is still a record-breaking tweet, is a tweet where he quoted former President Nelson Mandela, and he said, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion." That tweet was liked 4.5 million times and retweeted 1.8 million times. And this insert that has been compiled by Show and Bryce Peace, our correspondent in the US, really speaks to that, speaks to about this theme as well, the theme around bridging the divide. Just take a listen.
The two former presidents met only once in person, a chance meeting in 2005 in Washington, when then little-known Barack Obama, the junior senator from Illinois, was allowed to pay Madiba a short courtesy call at his hotel.
Obviously, the two first, I would assume that it holds a special weight for Obama and a special significance just because he's delivering such a significant speech on the continent of Africa, right? I remember when he spoke at Nelson Mandela's funeral and trying to contextualize so many of us grew up seeing apartheid, making some parallels and connections to what was going on in the United States, but sort of seeing apartheid symbolized in one great man. In somewhat similar ways to Dr. King in the United States, Nelson Mandela symbolized struggle, perseverance, dedication, freedom, uplift, all these adjectives that really encompass a complicated nation.
Born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1961 to Ann Dunham, a white woman from Wichita, Kansas, and a Kenyan father, Barack Obama Sr. The future president would spend 4 years in early childhood living in Indonesia with his mother and her second husband. He would attend both Columbia and later Harvard University, where he graduated magna cum laude in law in 1991. He worked as a community organizer and a law professor in Chicago, later elected to the Illinois State Senate, then the United States Senate.
Hello, Chicago!
And his crowning achievement of being elected the first black president of the United States in 2008, a trajectory that took most political observers by surprise. Who is Barack Obama in your view?
I always said that Barack Obama was like Superman. He's from everywhere and nowhere, right? And for Americans, you can put all of your racial hopes, dreams, fears, anxieties on this one particular person. And he came at a distinct moment where that worked.
Oh, yeah.
This historian speaks to the moment in time, much like Madiba, that Obama's inauguration represented to so many.
I do remember during his first inauguration thinking and feeling very poignant about all the people who had died in some sense to see this happen, and how that both is, there's a great feeling of some sort of triumph and at the same time quite poignant, because not only did I not live to see this day, but also because it's a half measure.
Sherwin. Mr. President. How are you, sir?
In 2010, we were invited to interview President Obama at the White House, and the conversation inevitably moved to Madiba, then already 92 years old.
He continues to be a model of leadership, not just for South Africa, but for the world. So we celebrate him here in the United States as you do in South Africa. We wish him all the best, and you know, we are constantly reminded that his legacy of seeing every person as important and not making distinctions based on race or class, but the degree to which they are people of character, you know, that's a good guidepost for how all of us should operate as leaders. And so I wish him all the best, and South Africa continues, I think, to be blessed by not just a national treasure, but a world treasure.
Obama would never meet Madiba as president or in person again after that 2005 chance meeting in Washington, but then First Lady Michelle Obama, on a trip to South Africa with daughters Malia and Sasha in 2011, were allowed to visit at his Houghton home. We asked both experts what comparisons we might draw between Madiba and Obama.
Nelson Mandela was a freedom fighter for his entire life. And so you see all these sort of groups around the world who've been fighting oppression, patriarchy, you know, whatever it may be. And he was essentially our president, all of our presidents. I think Obama is that way for a lot of people as well. Just fast forward one generation, what he meant and what he means to a lot of people on the continent, just because America is this beacon that many people idolize and idealize. I think that this moment, hopefully, Obama will be able to weave together the struggles of Mandela and then the struggles that we all still face globally.
Obama united two ends of a timeline. And in many ways, Mandela is doing the same thing, but from a very, very different position. Somebody who had the memory and was present throughout. So there's parallels here in the sense that you can make those similar sort of connections. And I guess in the same way you could say, and the sort of unfulfilled aspects of, you know, both presidencies is perhaps, you know, an underlying unity as well.
And when Madiba died in 2013, President Obama was among the very first world leaders to go before the cameras.
I am one of the countless millions who drew inspiration from Nelson Mandela's life. My very first political action, the first thing I ever did that involved an issue or a policy or politics, was a protest against apartheid. I would study his words and his writings. The day he was released from prison gave me a sense of what human beings can do when they're guided by their hopes and not by their fears. And like so many around the globe, I cannot fully imagine my own life without the example that Nelson Mandela set. And so long as I live, I will do what I can to learn from him.
And as the world marks the centenary of Madiba's birth, it will be Mr. Obama's task to pay homage to what has been achieved, and then to articulate the certain but winding road that lies ahead, particularly on questions of social and economic justice. Sherwin Brycepease, SABC News, New York.
To own, so please visit the stall. They're waiting for you.
Well, I can see on Twitter already people reacting to this news that has just been announced by Tong that the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, will be the one who delivers the 6th annual Nelson Mandela Lecture that's set to take place on the 17th of July. It will be happening at Ellis Park Stadium, I think the hall next to Ellis Park Stadium. And I'm not too sure at this point, how do you get access to be part of that event? I see the people also asking about where do we get tickets, how do I book my space at that particular event. And Tong was even saying while I was on the podium that he's already receiving phone calls, people wanting to know where exactly do they find those tickets. I guess you can go into the website of the Nelson Mandela Foundation where you can get more details, as well as some of the projects and programs that the foundation will be running across the year up until the 17th of July and even after the 17th of July, as the Nelson Mandela Foundation always says that every day should be a Nelson Mandela Day. From us here, it is goodbye and thank you so much for watching. It's goodbye for now.
To use their interest and start an initiative that would enhance the work of Mandela Day. And that's how Nelson Mandela, Bikers for Nelson Mandela Day started. Collectively, we have driven over 100,000 kilometers across South Africa with this initiative. Several groups have joined and also organized their own initiatives. And this year, there's 3 main initiatives happening. The first is the organizers here, Rian Kutsia. They are taking a group of motorbikers across South Africa, 5 days, 4 provinces, or 6 days, 4 provinces, and doing goodwill in rural communities. A motorbike provides a unique opportunity for you to get into a rural community. So Rian would be spearheading that initiative. And then on Saturday, the 14th of July, I will lead a group of bikers in a mass rally in Cape Town, if it doesn't rain, which is unlikely. We would depart from the parade in Cape Town city centre and go to Victor Verster, drive to Victor Verster. And then on Sunday, the 15th of July, my friends here from the Soweto Biker School, under the leadership of Alfred Matamela and several other biker groups like BMW clubs, Harley-Davidson clubs, will try and organize the biggest rally, motorbike mass rally, that this country has ever seen. We will depart from the Nelson Mandela Foundation and drive to the Union buildings in this mass rally, so expect slow traffic that day. And the theme for these 2 mass rallies, so both in Johannesburg and in Cape Town, will be in support of the work of the Keep a Girl Child in School initiative. So we will ask all these bikers, and you know, some of them masculine men driving big motorbikes, to each bring a packet of sanitary pads to be donated at the feet of Madiba statues in respectively Victor Verster and at the Union buildings. And in that way, we will assist the 3 million girls who still miss school annually because of the lack of access to sanitary pads. I was very fortunate to have worked with a person and saw a person waking up every morning who believed that if he does one little thing every day and he touch one person's life each day, that he could bring about change and he could change the world. And I can tell you that we all know, actually, that history tells us that Madiba did exactly that. He changed the world. And it starts with active citizenry, and we want to encourage people all over South Africa, but also across the world, to participate. And even if there's other biker groups that want to organize something, we hope they will join this initiative. We want to echo President Ramaphosa's call when he said earlier this year, to Mamina, or send me. This is Bikers for Mandela Day answering that call. And we know that through active citizenry like this initiative, we can contribute to bring about the equal and the just society that Madiba dreamt of. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Zelda. I definitely might need a helmet. I'm afraid of riding on a bike, so it might be my first time. Introducing to the stage, please, ladies and gentlemen, Grammy Award-winning South African musician, Vota.
Thank you, everybody. Yes, it's Vota Kellerman to your service. I wrote this next piece for Nelson Mandela, trying to paint his life with the colors of the flute. It starts off with him growing up in his rural Transkei, where he was very close to nature and spent time herding cattle. When I was writing this song, I was thinking about him sitting by his cattle, listening to the beautiful sounds of nature, which even then must have been tinged with a touch of sadness, showing what was to come in his life. In the next section, he moves to the city, and the peacefulness of nature makes space for the hustle and bustle of city life and a train of events that would take control of his life. In the last section, he retires, finally has time to be peaceful again and spend time with his family. The piece ends on an unfinished note, showing that even though his life is over, his memory and influence will carry on and sustain us far into the future.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walter Kellerman, Grammy Award-winning South African musician. For a moment there, we forgot about the sun and how unforgiving it is. That was absolutely beautiful. And thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. We are absolutely, absolutely honored. Thank you to everyone who is still here, who is braving the, the sun. I know the ladies are just dying right now. I know that, like, for us who are black, I'm like, I don't need a tan. But here we are. Moving on with our program, I'd like to call upon to the stage Ms. Yoliswa Makosi, who is the head of the Gauteng Province Community and Safety Department. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Nomzamo.
Can I disturb you for a little minute?
Please,
Thank you.
free.
Somebody has lost their cell phone. Somebody has lost their cell phone. I have it with me right here in the back. Obviously, you'd have to prove that it's yours somehow. So please, 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 if you know of anyone who's lost their cell phone, please make your way to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomzamo.
Ngiyabonga, sis.
Sanbonani, Ninjani. Sikona. I was thinking as I was sitting, CEO, that you're going to have to do something with these women who are burnt by the sun outside, because the treatments are very expensive for the face. So you're going to have to make it up to us. I'm not sure about the men, whether they also kind of do these things with the face. Viva Tata Nelson Mandela, viva. Viva Mama Winnie Mandela, viva. Viva Mama Albertina Sisulu, viva. Thank you very much. If you allow me to say all protocol observed, I work in government and there's lots of protocol in government. So to save time, I will just say all protocol observed. And just to introduce myself, my name is Yoliswa Makasi. I regard myself as one of the beneficiaries of our freedom, which has been hard fought for by people like Tata Mandela, by people like Mama Winnie Mandela, by people like Mama Albertina Sisulu. And I'm grateful to be here today. I am representing the MEC for Gauteng Community Safety, who was invited but couldn't be with you today because she is on another mission that relates to safety in our province. What we do as the Department of Community Safety, if I were to simplify it for you, is we have the difficult role of policing the police. So we have an oversight responsibility over police, and we also...
The Nelson Mandela Centenary campaign launched in Johannesburg today, and we've just heard that the keynote...
And this has to do with our history, where police were not wanted in our communities. And it is our role, working with the police and communities, to strengthen the relations between these two. There's structures on the ground that assist us to do the work, and I will not go in detail into that. But also to focus on safety promotion in our communities. Safety is a very big topic. It's not just about policing. It's about everything that happens in communities. So when we look at an event like today, we know that the giants that are being celebrated today really espoused a number of values, and one of them was around serving. The ability to serve the community, the commitment to serve their communities, the commitment to fight for the freedom and to fight for our democracy. We think under the theme that is the focus of the Nelson Mandela Foundation of focusing on peace, democracy, and human rights, there is lots of scope to engage on these matters. Our communities are not peaceful. we need to find ways to assist our communities with alternative dispute mechanisms, because when communities are unhappy about something, the first thing they do is to engage in violent protests. And they have legitimate concerns. However, it becomes a difficulty when you destroy what you already have that has been invested and built in that communities. So I think, CEO, and other partners who are here, there's a big space to engage with our communities under the theme of peace. And because you've already said that part of the criticism you have received as the Nelson Mandela Foundation is that you are too corporatized, you focus on corporates a lot. You have partners like the Gauteng Department of Community Safety and the Gauteng government generally, which I can assure you that we are with communities, we work with our communities. So we think that there is a space to engage in relation to that particular issue. Lastly, some of the things we focus on and we think are critical beyond strengthening community-police relations is we engage with young people in school. There's lots of violence in our schools, and it does not get much attention as it should. Learners who seem to be really not having so much respect for their teachers at times. I'm not sure what's happening in that space, but there's lots of violence and there's lots of work that we do with some of the schools. We have schools that are called, that we have highlighted as schools that require safety intervention. We work with the Department of Education in the province in respect to that. There is also the community of LGBTIs, which is a community that struggles a lot in our communities because they are regarded as people who are different from what is the norm in the communities. And we do lots of work and we do dialogues with with our communities, bringing in the law enforcement element as well, because the LGBTI community has complained on a number of times that in public sector institutions, they experience secondary discrimination. So you get arrested, you go to a police station. When you arrive there, you get further discriminated by the police or by the nurses in a hospital and etc. So there's lots of work around there as well that we're doing. So I'm saying these things as CEO because I'm saying there is scope to engage. There's lots of initiatives that are taking place, at least at the level of the Gauteng provincial government and its partners, that bring the communities together, and we are open to engage with you on those particular issues. The last issue I would like to say is fighting crime cannot only be a responsibility of government. Fighting crime cannot only be a responsibility of police in particular. It must be a responsibility of communities. It is communities who offer bribes to police on the roads or wherever you find police because they don't want to face consequences for their actions. It is communities who buy stolen goods from criminals in our communities. It is communities who hide criminals in their houses, in their communities, and not share the information with the police. So we are saying that also as communities, let's take up a stand. In line with the context and the theme of creating peace, let's take up a stand, let's work with our communities, let's fight crime in our communities. And I would like to thank you very much, CEO, for your invite and the rest of the community here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sisiolisa, and thank you to the department for the work that you do in making sure that this beautiful, beautiful city is safe. But also, more importantly, I'd just like to say that I commend the department for not only protecting the heterosexuals, but also the homosexuals within our communities. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And on that note, I'd like to call up the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Mr. Silo Hatang, to give us a few remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm aware that it's so hot, so I'm just going to cut this short. I want to just acknowledge a few people and then also invite you to go and look at the different stands that are here. One of the big ones being Vision Mission, which is run by the South African Optometrists Association for people who wear glasses like me, and I see there's a few candidates for that. But they will be conducting free eye tests, and for the kids who are here, they'll be getting the glasses for free. Which is a big kind of contribution, and they do this every year, by the way. So it's not just today. Thank you. I want to also acknowledge the stands, people who have the stands like the NBA. We have a game, the Africa game, that's coming in August, on the 2nd of August, marking Madiba's, the day of Madiba's capture. He was captured on the 5th, but it's in the same spirit. And in the same vein, to also tell Amadou Fall, their vice president, that we are with him in spirit because he lost his mom a couple of days ago. So we're with you in spirit. The Japanese embassy, which is here, which also is marking its own centenary. They opened their first consul general in office in Cape Town 100 years ago. Cotton On, your support has always been great, and they've got a stand here. PepsiCo, they always stand with us. SA Blood Services, which is just on the other side. You are really asked to go and donate 67 liters of blood so that you can, 67 liters of blood, give your 67 liters of I know that you want to sacrifice your life for others. There's an opportunity there. Rise Against Hunger also has a stand, plus Habitat Against Humanity. Constitution Hill, our permanent partners, and many, 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 many other partners who are here. And we'd like to thank each one of you for coming. Have a lovely day. Oh, of course, our MC. Thank you so much, Siswam, for everything that you do.
Now we are going to go into our concert phase. But before that, I'd just like to share a little story. A couple of days ago, I was on a flight to Cape Town, and I usually just get on the flight, I sit, I cover my face, because when I fall asleep, my mouth is wide open, so I don't need any pictures going viral. But this time, I didn't do that. And I sat next to a gentleman who was clearly in conflict. He turns to me and he says, "Okay, what is so special about you? You're a black girl." He was white. "You're a black girl, you're in business class, and you just ordered the vegetarian meal." So I looked at him and I laughed and I said, "What's so strange about that?" And so he says to me, "You know what? I left this country in 1991 because there was an uprising, and I was at UCT, and finally the bubble had burst, and I finally realized what was going on in this country, and I felt like I'd been living a lie all my life." He said, "I moved to India and I became Hare Krishna, or I joined the Hare Krishna, and fully immersed myself in the religion." And so I said to him, "You know, there's actually a word that I need to ask you about." I said to him, "What does dharma mean? Does it really mean purpose?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what does it actually mean? What do they mean by purpose?" He says, "Well, you look at water, and the purpose of water is to be wet." I thought, "Really? That's boring. Not to quench my thirst?" He said, "No, because it's absolutely individualistic. It has nothing to do with anyone else." And I said, "Okay, that's interesting." And I said, "Well, what's the dharma of people? What's our purpose?" He said, "Well, what I learned was that our purpose, our dharma, is to serve. That is why when you cry as a child, your mother will grab your bottle and she'll feed you, because her purpose is you. Her purpose is to make sure that you stay alive." And I thought that must be so interesting, because then I have a greater understanding and a greater perspective of the word dharma. So in today's program, I'd like for you to go home and think about what your dharma is and how you can better implement your dharma and your purpose in being the legacy and being a part of this legacy as we celebrate 100 years that were absolutely filled, immersed, and drenched in dharma. Sithi siyabonga tata la ukhona, siyabonga. Thank you for teaching us first what it means to have purpose and what it means to serve. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce a very interesting combo to the stage. It's Don Dada and the Mahotela Queens. So you're going to get a mix of both. And if you feel like you want some popcorn and slush puppy, we've got Stir Kinnickle and their incredible campaign and initiative about giving sight to young kids. So please go and grab some popcorn and, of course, visit the different stalls that we have here today. We are fully in concert mode. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Dada, Mahotela Queens.
Thank you.
Siyayikhumbula imisebenzi yakho Madiba. Uyibekile induku ebandla. Umhlaba wokusakhuluma ngawe namhlanje. Uyibekile induku umhlaba wonke. May your soul rest in peace. Lala ngoxolo Madiba. Madiba. Madiba.
1918, July, Transkai birthed the king. All hail the chief. Wake the giant from his sleep. The black company like a diesel in Delhi. That was the early 60s. Freedom fighter, trying to break the levee of a broken system. Now I feel the winds of change blowing right through the trees. Cool breeze over rough seas. Yeah, it brings peace and unity. And after